Well, hello again, everyone. If you've seen my other videos, welcome back. If you haven't, welcome for the first time. My name is Richard, and among some of the other things that I do, I am also a member of a group called the Graveyard Shift. What we do is we come out to cemeteries and graveyards and visit with the people out there and try and have a conversation with them. Now, the last couple of videos I did were just open to anybody who wanted to talk. I did mention in my last video that we were going to do something different. Well, today's the day, hopefully. Today we're going to concentrate and hopefully get to talk to one person. I need to give you a little bit of background on this. Now, I was kind of rehearsing in my head what I was going to say. And after I'd done it a couple of times, I realized that the background that I was going to give you was about 22 minutes long. So I don't want everybody to get really bored and either turn it off or jump ahead to the Spirit Box session. So I'm going to try and condense it a little bit. In September 1886, there were two men, a William Sterling and Henry Timmerman, who were working at a logging camp up by Ellensburg, which is about 100 miles north of Goldendale. And they left to go home, I guess, for the end of the year or whatever. And they were traveling together. Each one of them had their own wagon. Last time they were seen together was the 3rd of October in an area somewhere east of Goldendale. Well, there were two other men who were out looking for stolen horses in an area also east of Goldendale called Horse Heaven Hills, and they heard some gunshots. Several days later, as they were wandering around, they came across a wagon trail, and they noticed that there was a point where wagon left the trail. So they decided to follow that. They came across a body that had been there for several days. There's several things that they noticed. First, and probably the most obvious, was the person had gunshot wounds. Second was that basically against anybody at that time who was outdoors, he was not wearing a hat, and he also was not wearing boots. Well, they took the body to the sheriff in Yakima County, who notified the sheriff in Klickitat County, because that's where the shooting occurred. The last person to see him, he was later identified, I should say, by his wife as William Sterling. And the last person that was seen with him was Henry Timmerman. So Timmerman apparently lived in northeast Oregon, Sterling in southeast Washington, so it would make sense they were traveling together. Anyway, the sheriff of Klickitat County went to Oregon by way of a ferry terminal, dock, whatever you want to call it. There was a ferry that went across the Columbia River from the south coast of Washington to the north coast of Oregon. Talking to the person who operated that ferry, the Klickitat sheriff found out that there was a man who used the ferry to cross the river in early October. His wagon was being pulled by two teams of horses, and he was towing another wagon behind him. One of the things that the ferry operator mentioned was there seemed to be a lot of blood in the wagon that was being towed. So after contacting the sheriff in whatever county it is, I'm not really sure, in northern Oregon, and receiving a tip as to where Timmerman may be, or may have been, past tense, the Oregon sheriff formed a posse, and they all headed east to a place called Pilot Rock, which had a trading post. They got there to find out that Timmerman had been there. He was, I don't know if they had a bar or just a room to sit in while you were drinking, but he was drinking, and with no provocation at all, literally jumped up out of his chair and ran out of the building. went to the livery stable, grabbed one of his horses, and bareback, and rode away from the trading post. Now, the trail that he took, the Oregon sheriff knew a shortcut for. So he and the posse took the shortcut, and before long they came across Timmerman and he was arrested. Keep in mind, this takes a lot longer to do than to talk about, but he was extradited back to Washington, to Goldendale, where he was indicted for murder. It took until October of 1887, just about a year after Sterling was killed, before Timmerman was put on trial. Trial took about 6 weeks. His defense was that they were attacked by a group of armed robbers and that Timmerman had shot and killed one of the robbers. That was supposedly the body that was found. William Sterling, when he found out that the person that Timmerman shot was dead, fled the scene on foot and did not come back. So Timmerman took his wagon and his horses and proceeded to go towards his home. That was his story for the trial. The jury apparently did not believe it, so he was found guilty of murder. Through the appeal process and all the other bureaucratic things that the judicial system goes through, the date, actually I should say he was sentenced to hang. The date for that was April 6th of 1888, a year and a half after the murder. On the 6th of April, Timmerman was taken to an area north of Goldendale, south of the Mountain View Cemetery, which is where we are today, and he was hanged in front of they're estimating about 2,000 people. Back in those days, there wasn't much diversion from being a farmer or cattleman. So you took whatever diversion you could find. So everybody came from miles and miles and miles around just to see the hanging. As the noose was being placed around his neck, Timmerman cursed the town at that time of Goldendale, said that it would burn to the ground. The implication there is that it was going to burn because they were hanging an innocent man. He didn't say that, but that's kind of the impression that I got from reading the story. As it happened, back in those days, the most prolific object you could find to do anything was trees, so everything was made out of wood. Almost 5 weeks to the day after Timmerman's hanging, the city of Goldendale did indeed, 7 blocks of it in the downtown area on Main Street, did indeed burn to the ground. So we're going to get into that a little bit more also. About a year and a half later, somebody that has never been identified dug up the grave and stole Timmerman's body. He was found sometime later, washed up on the shoreline of a river that's a bit west of Goldendale. He was reburied in the Mountain View Cemetery, but in order to keep anybody from digging his grave up again, he was buried in an unmarked grave, so we don't know where he's at. The registers of the cemetery state that he is buried here, but they don't say where. I have my own opinion as to where that is, but I can't prove it, so I'm not going to get into that part. Anyway, the reason we're here today is to see if we can talk to Mr. Timmerman, find out his side of the story, and find out if it was actually William Sterling that was shot, and if so, did he do it? So that's the whole purpose of being here today. As I said, it was going to be a little different than the other ones that we've done. So we have the dreaded spirit box and speaker here. We're going to try and, if we can get this to work, see if we can talk to Mr. Timmerman. So, for the spirits that are buried here, or their mortal bodies are buried here, anybody that can hear my voice, instead of what we normally do and let everybody talk, I'm looking to talk to one person today, so I'm asking everybody else to kind of stand back a little bit and let him come through if he chooses to do so. So, with that being said, I'm looking for Mr. Henry Timmerman, if you would like to talk to us. If so, could you begin by telling me your name, please, and we'll turn the box on. Okay, I think I heard Henry there. Could you tell me your name one more time? See, that sounded like Timmerman that time. So we're going to assume that we're talking to Henry Timmerman. We don't know. There's no way to prove it. So we're just going to assume that's him. Could be anybody. You don't know. But that's what we're going to go with. So, Mr. Timmerman, would you mind if we asked you some questions about the incident that happened in 1886 through 1888? No? No, you don't mind. Okay. All right, let's start at the beginning then. The story is that you and William Sterling left Ellensburg together, both with your own wagon, headed home, I assume, for the winter. Is that part of the story true? Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. 3rd of October, 1886 was the last time the two of you were seen together. The next day, apparently someone was shot. We don't know for sure if the gunshots that were heard relate to the body that was found, but we assume that they did. Is that part true? It's true. Okay. Two-part question. First part, was the body that was found, was that actually William Sterling? Or was that someone that you shot after being attacked? Was it William Sterling? Let's try that. It was Sterling. Okay, I heard that fairly clearly. All right, second part of that question, and I'm sorry I have to do this, but it's the only way to find out. Did you, in fact, shoot and kill William Sterling? Okay, I'm not really hearing much of a response to that. I'll have to go back and listen to this again and see if there's something in there that I missed. I'm sure there probably is. Okay, next segment of this is that he said that you crossed the Columbia and went out to the trading post in Pilot Rock, that you were out there, whatever the facility was, having a drink, and for no reason that anybody can understand, you just jumped up and literally ran out of the room. Is that correct? Got it? Okay. So we'll assume that part is correct. I'll come back to that in a few minutes because this is specifically a reason why I'm asking this. All right. You were then taken back to Goldendale to stand trial for the murder, which eventually you were convicted of. And on April the 6th of 1888, they took you either to what became later known as the hanging tree, or, depending on the story you hear, they built a scaffold across the street to the west of the cemetery where you were hanged. So one of those two. Was that part correct? Correct. Okay. I heard that part very clearly. Okay. It also states in the history book that before you were hanged, you cursed the town and said it would be burned to the ground. I assume that's because they were hanging an innocent man, in your opinion? Is that correct? Right. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm specified on those, that gives me two different situations. One is when you were at the trading post at Pilot Rock, and you left there with no provocation whatsoever. Did something tell you that people were coming after you at that point? Is that why you left in such a hurry? Okay, I think I heard right on that one. Or that's right. I'm not sure. I'll still have to go back and listen to this. Okay, the other part states that when they put the noose around your neck just prior to the hanging, that you said the town of Goldendale would burn to the ground. Was there something that told you that was going to happen in the future? Is that something that you saw and understood to be in the future happening, or was this just something that you cursed the town for? The reason I'm getting to this is I wanted to see if these two situations at the trading post and before they hung you, where you actually became aware of something from the future that was going to happen? Is that how you knew about these things? You did it. The fire, yeah. But did you cause that fire to happen in some way? I thought I heard I did it. So I'm going to assume that you had some part in the town burning down. I'm just kind of curious as to whether or not you might have had some kind of a clairvoyant sight or intuition or something as to what happened. Okay. Now, after the execution, as it were, you were buried here in the Mountain View Cemetery, and then your body was stolen, and when it was reburied, you were buried in an unmarked grave. I'm kind of wondering how you feel about being unnoticed or unrecognized at this time. Now, it sounded like you said it hurts. I could understand that. You also, at this point in time, this is now 2026, 138 years since the hanging, you remain the only person who was ever hung or executed, as it were, in Klickitat County. So you have a little bit of notoriety to that. So how does that make you feel? Well, there's a lot going on in that, and I didn't hear any of it that made sense. So I'm going to ask you one more time. As the only person ever executed or hung, whichever term you want to use, in Klickitat County, that gives you a bit of notoriety, as it were. So how does that make you feel? Do you kind of like the idea of still being remembered 140 years after the fact? Or do you feel bad about what happened? Yeah. Again, I'm going to have to go back and listen to the tape or to the recording because I'm not really hearing anything. I have to put the earphones on. Is there anything else that you would like to say while we have you here that you want people to know about? Okay, I think there's some things being said that I'm not being able to hear. I'll have to go back again and listen to it. One more thing that I'd like to know. The shooting itself, did this stem from some kind of an argument that you had with William Sterling, or how did that happen? Was it some kind of problem between the two of you that you felt only could be solved by shooting him? Okay, I heard something about he was shot. Is that like an argument that you had? What I'm getting to here is it's reported that when they found the wagons at Pilot Rock, that it had a lot of blood in it, in addition to what was later identified as Mr. Sterling's hat and boots. There's a lot of blood in the wagon, which kind of leans me towards the direction of he may have been shot while he was sleeping. Is that what happened? He was shot. Did you shoot him while he was sleeping? I did. Okay. Okay. And that was basically because of some kind of an argument or whatever between the two of you? I heard wanted blood. Okay. I assume then from that comment that you were kind of upset and angry with him for some reason. Was this something that had happened before, or just something that had happened while you two were traveling together that got that way, that you felt you had to shoot him? Okay, I think there's, again, a number of comments in there that I'm not able to hear. So I'll go back and listen to that and see if we can get a reply to it. Mr. Timmerman, I would like to thank you for answering our questions. Is there anything else that you would like to say, or any questions that you have about what we're doing, why we're doing it, anything like that? Or have I bothered you enough for one day? Pick me. It's all good. Okay, you have no questions for me then? Okay, something about going solo. Okay. Well, I thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it. Don't know if you've been listening when we were here at other times or not, but we're here specifically for what we've been doing is to talk to the spirits that are here. We make no judgments on anybody, what's good, bad, wrong, right, whatever. We're just trying to clarify the truth in some of these matters. And thank you for doing that. Appreciate that very much. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close this down? Nothing. Okay. That was the last thing that I did here. Thought I heard 7 in there earlier, but that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, thank you for your time, Mr. Timmerman. And thank you to all the other spirits here for letting him come through and talk to us. So at this point, that will pretty much end our session for today. We got, I'm sure, a lot more than what I actually heard. And again, I'll go back and listen to it, and anything that I pick up, I will put in the, put in the comments. So you can try and listen for that. Turn all the goodies off here. And I will say once again, thank you all for watching. Not sure what the next Spirit Box session is going to be. Depends on what kind of a harebrained idea I can come up with. But chances are we may end up just going out to the actual Pioneer Cemetery for the Goldendale area, which is a little bit outside of town to the southwest. We've been to this cemetery now, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, something like that. I don't know if I explained earlier, I was out here 3 days ago, last Friday. It's now Monday the 18th, I believe. Yeah. I was out here Friday, the 15th of May, and got absolutely no response from anyone on any subject for any reason. So I'm glad that they were willing to do that today, or Mr. Timmerman was willing to do that today. And we thank him, and thank you to all the spirits who allowed him to come through. I can pretty much guarantee that we will be back again. Last time I was here, I already shut everything down, so I can't ask, but last time I was here, I asked if anybody objected to us coming back, and other than a little profanity from Walter, nobody seemed to be disagreeable to that fact, so we will, in fact, come back again. So, until that happens, thank you all very much for your cooperation and your help. And with that, we're going to end this session, and as I always say, be safe.